It's been almost a year since Skeletá came out, so I'm reviewing this carefully. I'll be bringing up what I used to think about the songs and how my opinion has or hasn't changed over time. For those who've listened to my other album reviews for Ghost, it's clear I'm more of a fan of their earlier style, and Impera has been my least favourite so far. So it's not a surprise that I do struggle to really like all of this album, given how it is closer to the Impera style. But just like Impera, there are songs I like on here, and I don't want to be too dismissive of Skeletá, but some of these songs are hard to like when I know what Ghost is capable of. I actually completed the re-listen of this album and had a more positive view than I had when it first released. But I was in the car and the track Infestissumam happened to come on, and I suddenly realised that Skeletá is just not it. I heard dark Latin tenor vocals, a slow marching dark melody with grandiose instrumentation, and Skeletá is just never going to be that. The album is much better as long as you don't think about Opus, Infestissumam, Meliora or Prequelle at all. And whilst I will always prefer what Ghost provided earlier in their discography, this album was never trying to be that. So it's comparing apples and oranges to some degree, and I want to be able to assess this thing based on its own merits and what it's trying to achieve. I think overall, Skeletá does achieve what it's trying to, but whatever the hell that is supposed to be just is not for me. And I would be plain dishonest to say I like or appreciate a track when I just don't. So I'm going to be going through the tracks in order, talking about what I like and what I don't, and then we'll do the ranking at the end and see also where Skeletá places as an album compared to the other Ghost albums. So starting off with Peacefield, this is a really good song. I like the choir even though it's more uplifting than what we're used to. For an album opener, this is really fitting with previous album openers we've had from Ghost before. The choir is singing in English, which is an interesting difference, instead of Latin, which we normally do. And I like the organ underneath it as well. Choir and organ is a classic Ghost combination. Right off the bat, the song is noticeably more uplifting than a typical Ghost track. But what carries it for me is the guitar riff. I really like it. It almost sounds like a 7/8 riff with the accenting, but it has enough beats, an extra beat to take it up to 4/4. It sounds a lot like the 15th Doctor's theme from Doctor Who, so I always think about that whenever I hear it now. But the riff gives the song a really infectious groove, and there is an epicness to the intro and the chorus that I really enjoy. And the scale is definitely present live as well, because I heard this song live before it was released, and my main takeaway from that point in time was the scale of the intro. The drums sounded really enormous. The solo is a great one, really bright, matching the song's energy, and I love when it slows down as well. So we have a brighter section and a slower section, which is a bit of an inversion of the Ghost solo trope that we've been talking about. This track has really grown on me over time, and I liked it quite a bit at the time as well. I just feel like the song trundles along at a really comfortable pace, it has a solid groove, and it's a really enjoyable track. It's a really great start to the album. The only reservation I have is kind of similar to the Impera reservation in general, which is that the dark elements of Ghost are completely absent here, and that is the stuff I prefer. There are lyrics in here like, "We are legion, join us," which is literally just a quote from Jesus. And this song can easily be mistaken for gospel music. There's no Satanism in this anymore at all. At least none that I can detect, and I listen to the song loads, but I haven't really looked that carefully at the lyrics. But I'm okay with Ghost having more uplifting songs because everything else about this song really works for me, especially the instrumentation, and we get plenty of instrumental darkness in the next song, which is Lacrima. So in Lacrima, the riff is a classic Ghost sounding riff. This has a real first 3 albums sound about it, and I really like that. The keyboard melody is extremely square hammer, but I think that it is different enough. I don't think it's in the same key, which really helps it, and I really like when the melody comes back in the chorus, but that's where the square hammer comparisons end, because it doesn't sound anything like it, apart from the fact that melody is a bit similar to the riff. And I like the chorus a lot. I think it's quite anthemic, like Peacefield. It's very singable. It's got good hooks. The verse riff is heavier than Peacefield and is definitely one of the heaviest in the album. I think this is the heaviest the album gets in that verse riff. And actually, the reason the verses feel heavy is, of course, because of the guitars, but it's actually the bass. The bass tone is dark and heavy, and it's these staccato notes on each downbeat. They really give the song its heaviness, and if you've ever heard this song live, you know that it's the bass that is what makes this song. You can really hear it. I quite like the pre-chorus. I remember not being too sure of it at first, but I soon got over that. It's pretty dark sounding. The solos are a real highlight of the track. I love the harmonization of them in this song. I love how they climb upwards in the fast rhythm we've heard in the verse and in the pre-chorus as well. That daga 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 da, and then they explode into a melodic section, and then they come back down and build back up really spectacularly. It's one of the best solos Ghost have ever written because of the way the whole section goes on for so long, and it takes us to the final two choruses, the last of which has a key change that really fits. Unlike some of the key changes in Impera that I wasn't a fan of, I really like it here. The only thing I would question, similar to Peacefield, is what is this song actually about? It seems to be about a breakup, but why would Ghost be writing breakup songs? This is just not the material I come to Ghost for, and that is a sticking point for me. But fortunately, this song delivers instrumentally, and immediately afterwards, we do get an overtly satanic song in Satanized. So Satanized was the first single they released for Skeletá, and I remember being disappointed. Impera wasn't for me, and I hoped they would change course like they had from Prequelle to Impera, maybe coming back to their older sound. But this is very much in the Impera vein. Having said that, I have come to really like this song. I remember it took me a couple of months to get to that point, but I did come around on it. I have to be in the right mood to listen to this song. Unlike Peacefield and Lacrima that I really can listen to at almost any time, I have to be feeling this one when I listen to it. Lyrically, it's a satanic song about conversion to Satanism, and I really like that for Ghost. It's a bit campy, but Ghost are a bit campy. It's a little bit Infestissumam, I think. It would kind of fit on that album if you take away the synthesizers at the end. I really like the instrumentation here in this song. This is another song really made by the bass. The bass line is in triplets. It's so groovy and it brings us along for the whole ride. The verses have a gallopy feel because of the triplets, which is really fun. And the drums are doing a straight 4/4 backbeat, which is really good. So you can groove to either the 4/4 or to the triplets. The chorus I was unsure of at first, but now I really like it. I think it's very singable. I remember not being too sure of the heresy vocals in between, but I've come around on those. I think this song is so fun. The guitar work in those sections is really great, and the best part of the song for me is when the guitars play triplets and go up a semitone, accenting on the 4 and the 5 of the 6 triplets. That is the heaviest part of the song, and it is definitely the best. I really like the solo. It follows the classic Ghost solo convention, which is to start off dark and moody over the top of that semitone guitar section I was just talking about, but then evolve into a brighter section where the guitars change and give the song a development. I like the bit where the instruments disappear and we hear some acoustic plucking, and I think the ride cymbal work in the last pre-chorus. That's quite nice, and then we have the last chorus to finish us off. So I don't like this song as much as Peacefield or Lacrima, but this is still a good song for Ghost. And the next song is Guiding Lights. And it's so weird because the nosedive in quality after Satanized is insane. It feels like I'm listening now to a totally different album. I think you can put this song down as a blip for now and enjoy De Profundis Borealis next quite a bit, but after that it does get really rough for me. And so even though this song and the next song are okay, they are nowhere near the quality of the first 3 tracks. And those 3 tracks all happens to be the singles, interestingly. So I think that Ghost know that those 3 songs are the best ones, and that's why they put them first, which is quite unusual because normally throughout a Ghost album, you have good songs towards the end, like Absolution or Respite on the Spitalfields. But we'll get to what's at the end of this album later. So with this song, I do like that it is a bit of a vibe shift. I like the chorus quite a bit. The first time I hear the chorus, I'm not too sold, but by the end of the song, I do warm up to it again, so I always come around to it over the course of a listen. I'm not so sold on the outro, I think it's a bit naff, and at the end of the day, when I listen to this, I can't help but think of a song by Muse called Guiding Light, which is much better, and I'd always rather listen to that. So that's not a fair comparison because it's not the same band, but that's always what goes on in my head, and I just be thinking I could be listening to Guiding Light instead of this song. But I do think Guiding Light is okay. Its placement in the album, though, is a bit wrong. I don't think it should be coming after Satanized. I think we should be going probably from Satanized straight into what is the next track, which is De Profundis Borealis, because this song is pretty good. I do think it definitely feels like an album track rather than a single, but it feels like it's on the same album as Peacefield. There is definitely that sonic consistency that I think was lost a bit with Guiding Lights, and this song has a great energy about it. I think the piano at the start is great, and I really like how the intro brings in the guitars and takes its time to build up. Reminds me a bit of the intro to Watcher in the Sky. And then it transitions really well into the riff. I think the galloping and riffing in the guitars is great in this song as well. And I always think of this song really in 2 sections. You've got the first 3 and a bit minutes, which always to me just feel okay. I like the energy from the constant snare pulse throughout. That's one of my favorite things about this song. And then you've got the second half, which is basically just the outro, which is fantastic and really rescues the song. It's really the highlight of this. I love that it's in 6/4, and I love the accenting as well on the last 2 beats, so on the 5 and the 6 of the first 3 bars, and then there is no accenting on the 4th bar of 6/4, so that's really cool. I love that, and I really like the fade out to the deep vocals at the end too. The song has a great ambience, the song has great melody in the guitar parts in the outro as well. And the accenting brings a heaviness to it, but overall the song never feels that heavy, it just feels very energetic. So we are 5 tracks down now, and we are halfway through the album, and so far I would say this experience is better than Impera was at this point. The only songs I really like on Impera are Respite on the Spitalfields, 20s, and Spillways is pretty good too. And I wouldn't say that any of the songs so far have reached the level of 20s or Respite. I think Peacefield and Lacrima are as good as Spillways, but we haven't reached the heights of Impera yet. But what we do have from Skeletá so far is a great deal of consistency. Everything has been pretty solid. The weakest so far has been Guiding Lights, but even that song is okay for me. I am afraid now that, with the exception of one song, the best of Skeletá is behind us, because next we have Cenotaph. Now I can totally get why you like this song, but this song throws me off immediately with the admittedly quite cool hi-hat groove, but what initially sounds like a totally boring synth melody. I don't think these things work together, and then we have the guitar coming in, and I just don't see what that adds at all. Doesn't add anything for me, and we have this mess of 3 different patterns, and we commit to that for the entire first verse. I guess it kind of morphs into something a bit more fun, but I don't like how crazy little thing called Love this sounds. I'm not crazy about that Queen song, and I don't find its influence here that interesting either. The only thing that would get me to listen to this song again would be the solo. I think it's really cool. I like the ride cymbal behind it, and I like the harmonization with the keyboard and the guitar. It's actually really good, but that is about it for this song. Next we have Meliora Amori, and just to get this out of the way, this song has synths that I cannot stand the sound of. That 80s style synth is not a sound I have ever liked. I've always thought it sounds really tacky, and then bringing it in here does not help. The main guitar riff though is quite fun. I think this album sounds a lot more glammy than Impera did. Impera sounded a lot more hard rock. and still had quite a few elements of metal present. I think the metal elements are a lot less present in this album, and the guitar tone sounds very glammy, very retro, very 70s and 80s. It's a very simple riff, but it is quite fun. The solo has some really cool moments, and I'm pretty sure it directly references the song See the Light when it plays the vocal melody of All of the Demons I've Known. I actually quite like that, and I'm pretty sure it is intentional. Instrumentally, the song is enjoyable, but lyrically, this song is infantile. I don't even need to get into what this song is about. If you know, you know. And because I'm not a teenager, I don't find it funny. I don't find it cool. It's just cringe. Next, we have Marks of the Evil One, and this song, I would say it's enjoyable. I think it's perfectly fine. It never makes me feel that excited or engrossed though, and I wouldn't say it's bad. It sounds a bit like a rubbish Danse Macabre, to be honest. The main melody before the verses is quite bland. It doesn't evoke anything. It doesn't make me feel anything in particular. People say though that this album has a lot of Prequelle influence, and as someone who really loves that album, and it's my favourite Ghost album, I don't hear it at all. None of the things that make Prequelle great are in this album. Prequelle songs have a much heavier and enveloping soundscape. There are often orchestral ornaments, mainly strings, that this album trades out for cheap sounding 80s synthesizers instead. And that trade-off is really obvious in this song. What if Danse Macabre was more boring and had boring synthesizers in the background, rather than a better groove and really interesting melodies? The chorus just feels like it's trying to be a live event so hard, and it's trying to have this catchy hook, but I just don't feel it. I don't buy into the fact that this is catchy or singable or as anthemic as even other tracks on this album. This song does have a pretty cool solo though. There's a development of the main melody in there, which is really cool, and that's partially because it sounds very similar to Satan Prayer. Now, unlike See the Light being in Massilia Amori, I do think that Satan Prayer being in this song is totally coincidental. I don't think it was actually intentional, more like a happy accident. I'm not against this song. I'm not against Marks of the Evil One, but I don't think I'm for it either. It's about Satan, sure, but it's devoid of any substance. It's trying to be a crowd pleaser without being about anything. Maybe it's supposed to be fun, but how fun is it really? Doesn't make me want to dance to it, move around to it, listen to it again. And next up is Umbra. Umbra really promises more than it delivers, unfortunately. Firstly, I don't like the sound of the synths at the start. I don't like 80s music, so obviously this album is going to be a bit of a challenge for me because that 80s synth style is just not for me. But at least the progression and the layering of the synths builds up the sound quite effectively. So what I'm saying is that build up is quite good, even though I don't like those synths. And so once we're built up to a certain point, the riff comes in and it just feels like a letdown. I don't feel like the cowbell adds anything special to this song, and it just feels more like a gimmick. I don't care about the verses or pre-chorus to this song at all. I do actually quite like the choruses though. I think they're great. So we do the verse, the pre-chorus. After the second chorus we go into this instrumental bit. The hi-hat is moving us along, whilst the keyboard and guitar have a music battle. Now, I saw this song live before it was released, and this makes a lot of sense to me because I've seen it live. But there are a couple of problems. I really like this as a live element. Seeing the ghouls battle is quite entertaining, and it's cool that this live element of Ghost, which is part of their whole thing as a band, has crossed over into the studio version of the song. But I like it more in theory because the way that it's been done, I really don't like. What they did was they hard panned the guitar to the right and the keyboard is hard panned to the left ear. I'm not against that if it's only for a short period of time, but the problem we've got is that it goes on for far too long and it just makes you think, get on with it already. This is going nowhere. Because another problem with panning these instruments hard to each side is we actually lose some detail in what the instruments are doing. There are melody lines played by the keyboard especially that I cannot hear at all. I literally cannot even hear properly what the keyboard is trying to play, because maybe they filtered the sound or decreased its volume in the mix to give more impact to the next section when all of the instruments come back, and maybe they up the volume there. But whatever it was that they actually did, I think they really messed this one up, because that is a cool live element, and seeing it live and hearing it live is cool, but hearing it in the studio version is boring. And that's why I'm so frustrated by this song, because it's not that bad. This is the best section of the song, and yet in the studio version, I can't even hear it. And lastly, we have Excelsis. I used to not like this song. I used to think it was a worse version of Life Eternal. And whilst I'd prefer to listen to Life Eternal personally, I actually think that this song complements Life Eternal really well. I think I misunderstood this song for a long time, and I've come around on it a lot. Life Eternal is about wishing you had more time before you die. Excelsis is about acknowledging that you don't have enough time in life, and you have to make the most of it. And I think these lyrics are really well written. You know, why not leave one day? Why not go on an adventure? Why not see where the rainbow ends? That thought that every child has, but never finds out what's there for whatever reason. Maybe they grow up, maybe they have a different interest. Go do the things you always wanted to do, but never did do, or simply just haven't done yet. That's what Excelsis is about, and I think that's a really great message. And it does actually tie into Ghost's satanic theme. It's a rejection of religion. Forget eternity and whatever life people say is after or before this one. Live in the moment and make the most of this life, because this is the one you've got now, and the only one you definitely know you're gonna have. And the final lyric of Excelsis dovetails with the final lyric of Life Eternal so beautifully. Life Eternal ends with, "If you had life eternal," and Excelsis ends with, "I am afraid of eternity too." That is so good. So stop worrying about what you can't control and live this life. Just such a good message. Instrumentally, it really works too. I like the 6/8 feel. I like the acoustic guitar being used here too. I love the piano being used as ornamentation in the background, especially in the final chorus. The bass is really great in this song, especially in the Excel moments. I like the organ keyboard complementing the second verse with the little rundowns. I can really see this song fitting on Prequelle. This is the only one where the Prequelle influence I can really hear being a positive, and it would fit on that album, but this is the only one that would actually do that. The rest of these songs definitely sound like Skeletá songs. I like when it goes into the bridge as well, which is a bit heavier, bringing in the distorted guitars, and I love how it transitions from that bridge into the solo, which is such a tasteful solo for the first section and for this song, and then it develops into a harmonized section which is a bit more dramatic so effectively. It's a really beautiful song, and it basically took me a full year to come around on it, but I did come around on it eventually. So those are the 10 tracks in Skeletá. Time to rank them. So at the bottom, at number 10, I'm afraid I have Cenotaph. Again, I can see why you like the song, but I don't like Crazy Little Thing Called Love that much. I'm obviously not going to like this song that much either. At number 9, it's Umbra, because I just don't really see a reason why I would listen to Umbra. What is the reason exactly? Because it has cowbell? Is that really what Ghost have been reduced to? I should want to listen to a Ghost song because of so much more rather than it has one gimmicky instrument. At number 8, we have Meliora Amori, because even though I think instrumentally it's a bit better than Marks of the Evil One, which is going to be at 7th place, I find Meliora Amori so much more cringy. It's a really hard listen for me, to be honest. Above Marks of the Evil One, at number 6, we have Guiding Lights, because the song is quite pleasant. It's okay, it doesn't really do that much, but it's not got anything in that I don't like. At number 5, we have De Profundis Borealis. This is a good, energetic song. It feels the most in line and in keeping with the first 3 singles we heard from this album. At number 4, we have Excelsis, because I think the meaning is really profound. At number 3, we have Satanized, and I think that's because with Ghost, even though I like their ballads and their slow tracks, I do like their groovy tracks a lot more. So Satanized at number 3, and it's a real toss-up between Peacefield and Lacrima at number 1. I sort of go to and fro. Today when I was re-listening to the tracks, I was going to put Lacrima at the top, and that's something I would have done if you'd have just asked me like a couple months ago, what's the best song on Skeletá? But when I actually sat down and listened to it, I did think for a bit, maybe Peacefield is a better song than Lacrima. So I think that they are equal, to be honest with you, but I'm going to put Peacefield in second and Lacrima at number 1. But they are very evenly matched in terms of quality, I think. I'm putting Lacrima above just because of its heaviness, and it ties into what I like a little bit more. So that is the ranking of all of the songs on the album. I'm going to talk now just a little bit about Skeletá before I place it amongst the other albums, and then round off my album ranking for Ghost, which has been a long process. I started ranking Opus quite a while ago. Skeletá, I think, represents something quite unusual about Ghost's evolution as a band. They aren't really a metal band anymore. Some would say they never were a metal band and were always their own thing, and that was true to some extent, but they were definitely a metal band. There's just no question about that. But now it's a much more hard rock kind of sound, which is not really a problem, because I like hard rock a lot. But Skeletá is even a deviation from the hard rock sound. So far that I would say it is more of a fusion of 80s synth pop and a type of glam rock, which in this case is more like a campy hard rock. And if you're not a fan of 80s music, like me, and you're not really a fan of glam rock either, like me, then there's going to be very little in this album that is for you. And I struggle with Skeletá for that reason. But it's really clear that this album and Impera resonate really heavily with loads of people. If you look online, people love this album and they love Impera. So I'm really glad that there are people who connect so strongly to these albums, but even though they have their moments for me, due to where my tastes are, at least at this current moment, I'm just not going to be one of those people who can really connect to Impera or Skeletá, and that's fine. Ghost used to be metal. They used to be anonymous. They used to be more satanic. Today, they aren't metal. They aren't really anonymous anymore. I mean, with Perpetua's character and his costume, you can basically see all of Tobias's face. And the satanic elements are hardly present anymore. They've lost their substance if they are present, and they're nowhere near as overt as they used to be. Ghost have changed, and I just preferred what Ghost used to be more. But I think the fact that my favourite album from them is the 4th album, which is quite an experimental one compared to the rest of their albums up to that point, shows that I'm willing to move with Ghost, but there does have to be some alignment with what they're writing and my own musical tastes. And these last 2 albums just haven't been to my taste. And I've tried to be as fair as possible to give songs a chance, and I have found some songs in those albums I like, but as overall albums, they are by far my least favourite. So, at the bottom, my least favourite Ghost album, I think the toss-up between Impera and Skeletá is a hard one, but I'm going to put Impera at the bottom. Impera in 6th place and Skeletá at 5th place. It's quite hard to weigh them up, because Impera has songs that I much prefer to Skeletá. There are no songs on Skeletá I like as much as 20s or as much as Respite on the Spitalfields. We never reach those heights, but Impera has songs that I really get confused by and cannot like. Whereas Skeletá, whilst it has songs that aren't really for me, I think there is overall a higher consistency in the album overall, and I value that. I value being able to put on an album and have a consistent listening experience. It is quite hard to listen to an album and go from a really bad song to a really great song. It really is not the kind of thing I like, and I would struggle to overlook that in Impera's case. I think Skeletá's more consistent, but I think the overall mix on Impera as an album is better than the overall mix on Skeletá. So you win some, you lose some. And at number 4, I would put Opus Eponymous. And I have to say, the difference in quality between Opus and Skeletá in terms of the songwriting is quite significant. Opus aligns with my tastes, and the style that Ghost went for in that album is so much more what I would want from Ghost. And production-wise, we take a big step up into number 3, which is Infestissumam. This album has a real identity that I connect with and I enjoy a lot. I think it's an essential Ghost album. Number 2, I'm going to put Meliora in there. I was curious to see if Meliora would take the top spot because it is most people's favourite, but I think there are so many songs on Prequelle that are phenomenal. Every single song is brilliant. And whilst Meliora has incredible songs like Cerise, Prequelle took some incredible risks, and things like Miasma are just a phenomenal song for Ghost to have written. And it's a real shame that the only songs like Miasma that exist are in Prequelle, and they didn't really do that in Impera, and any sort of attempt at an instrumental again is diminished when you think about what they made in Umbra in Skeletá. Prequelle also has Danse Macabre, which is this incredible pop rock song. It has a heavy song like Rats, which has an anthemic chorus. It's got heavy songs like Faith. I think it has everything that Meliora has to offer and more, especially in the orchestral ornamentation that they brought in as well. I just prefer this style for them. So there it is. That's my ranking. I'm going to put all these reviews into one video, and I'm going to add onto the end of that a little bit about the EPs, just a couple of comments on the ones I haven't already talked about and ranking those. And then that will be all of Ghost ranked. So like and subscribe if you made it this far and you appreciate my attempts to talk about Ghost, give the songs a shot, even if I don't like them. I hope you can appreciate the fact that I have tried to be objective about them, talk about things that I like about them, or I can see that people would like about them, even if I can't. And share the kind of songs that you like from Ghost in the comments, because I'm always interested to hear what people have to say. I like a good discussion about Ghost, as you can tell from the length of these videos. So subscribe.